it's inundating really, like, and just
It's just like,
intimidating,
in
to
the
look at.
'80s, there was a group called New Edition, and they broke up, and like three of the guys were like, "We're gonna form our own group called Belle Biv DeVoe," and they had one hit. But it's just like the principle of a group separating and like them still doing their own things individually, but with like a new name, but they still have keep a little bit of the basics like that originally made them that
Yeah,
original group.
but you don't want the spinoff to be a one-hit wonder. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, basically,
Well, I mean, according to my mom, they're not a one-hit wonder, but to the rest of the world, they are.
to everybody else's ears. Well,
Yes.
so speaking of, like, if we were to apply the one-hit wonder sort of mentality to look at the prices of crypto, for example, over the past, I don't know, it's 5 to 10 years, even maybe more recent than that. If you look very closely, you'll see that there's mostly low activity, pretty cheap, and then sometime in 2017, for example, with Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash, just a quick surge of interest in it. They shoot up within a matter of months, and then crash right back down to reality, and then they lie dormant for a year or so. Um, Cryptocurrency is kind of volatile, y'all. Like, it takes a strong stomach. If you're going to be owning it, if you're going to be, like me, if you're going to be obsessively compulsively looking at the numbers and saying, "Oh, how much is my money worth today?" Get ready for a wild ride. I mean, I've woken up and, like, overnight, yeah, I made $1,000, and then I've also woken up like 30 within a span of 30 minutes. I saw $3,000 just slide off. I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, but that's normal. Um, and it's kind of because also crypto hasn't been adopted to the point where it has another side of fixed value. Like, when you can go really buy something for it, and the product that you're buying implicitly gives what you're paying for it some value. It kind of fixes the value a little bit. If I could say, 1 Bitcoin will get me a Tesla. All right, well, how much dollars is a Tesla worth? That kind of gives you an indication for what the buying power of the currency is, and therefore implicitly its value. Right now, there's not that widespread adoption, and you don't have that sort of fixed, point of relation where the value is stable. It's rocking up all over the place. It's gone up to 20, 30, 40,000, and then it shed 10,000 over the span of the next few days. So that's not ideally how a currency can work. You don't. Nobody's going to put their money into or buy something in a currency. Which I use this sort of stupid analogy, the burrito conundrum, because Chipotle apparently will take Bitcoin. So I go into Chipotle, I buy my burrito with Bitcoin. Given the volatility of Bitcoin, when I take my burrito from the register and go sit down with it, or go far away from people and eat it, by the time I've gotten there, it has either gained or lost value, almost significantly enough that, like, it's almost gotten bigger or smaller. It kind of disincentivizes me from wanting to buy things with it now. If I think that, oh, I'm buying $10 worth of Bitcoin, what a few years from now is going to be worth $50 worth of Bitcoin. I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot, right?
Yeah. I think we might be on to like a new hustle. Like you buy a burrito from Chipotle, you sit on it for, a, a couple hours, a couple days, bring it back, get the refund. But you got to do it when the market goes up. So you see Bitcoin has gone up,
Burrito
you
day
get a
trader,
refund on the burrito,
man.
you have made a profit.
As soon as my hands get on it, it's already halfway gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have no type of patience when it comes to like the food, like the point of like the food being finished and the point of Ray eating it. Like
yeah.
there's no medium, like there's no space in
It's not
between
something you
those
want to
two
watch.
moments.
It's not something you want to watch.
Yeah, it's giving me the Flintstones, but
so, so that's another side of something to think about. Is that it, the stuff is in the wild, wild west days. It's just kind of getting started. There's gonna be this danger for bubble and burst. We always talk about bubbles when it comes to markets. There's such excitement over a product. I don't know. GameStop is a good example. You'll probably cover that in another time. But when something is so popular that it gets way too high in value, it becomes overpriced. It lacks that fundamental, this thing is overvalued. It's not worth, for example, in GameStop stock, it's not worth $400 a share. You know, and so things crash back to earth. That's kind of, if you look at the charts over the span of a few months, Litecoin, for example, has done that. It's gone through 2 full cycles of tripling in value within the span of a few months, and then just crashing right back down to earth for another year. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that may be a good little segue for kind of putting in people's minds, how do they want to access crypto? How do they want to trade it? What do they want to do with it? Let's say
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
listeners want to go out and get some. What's their
Hmm.
strategy?
Well, we mentioned that, your choice was to go on PayPal and start to buy
Mhm.
through PayPal. Mine was to go through Coinbase. So basically, you want to go to an exchange, which is like Coinbase for me, or you want to use like a third party vendor, which would be PayPal or Cash App.
So once these guys have their crypto, there's kind of a few ways that people are approaching it. You've got kind of prototypical guy in their basement, kind of clacking away at his computer. He's accumulated a bunch of Bitcoin. He's going to never sell it. He's a hodler. It's a stupid
Hmm.
term, but HODL, hold. Basically,
Hmm.
people who are just going to hold it and never sell it until that stuff becomes worth $1 million a piece.
So that's me. Like if I'm explaining my investment strategy, like I have a long-term investment strategy, which is going to be small nominal amounts every once in a while, and just watching that. And at smart times, like obviously you want to buy low and sell high. So whenever I see the market dip is when I want to buy, and I'm just going to hold on to this until forever, until the dementia hits.
Well, I mean, so that's the other side of the coin, and that's where kind of my side of it. You don't kind of
You're
get
more of a
value.
day trader.
Yeah, you don't get that value back out of it until you sell it back for something. And
Hmm.
that's how I approached it. And this is my little cautionary tale. Um, First off, y'all, don't spend your life savings on crypto. Don't do it.
Wait, you mean to tell me I shouldn't have dumped all of the money I've ever made in life into cryptocurrency?
Let's just say, I had gotten a nice bonus from my work. It happened to kind of coincide with when I kind of got into crypto. Um, I kind of went hog wild with it. I was just kind of, when I would see in this particular time prices would be kind of going down. Um, I'd be buy buy buy. Everything for me was like a buy. Signals going off in my brain. Oh, I gotta get it right now.
So
See.
how much money are we talking about, Ray? Like a couple hundred, couple thousand, millions of dollars have
No,
been drained?
well, let's just say I had probably a rep in the order of $10,000 of
Hmm.
crypto. Um, I was a little bit behind on some other bills. I was not being very smart about this. I was gambling really hard. I was all in on this because kind of doing a lot of math to myself. I was kind of figuring, I want to do a little buy low, sell high. Not all of it, but I wanted to make a little extra coin. Um, I started getting so deep and so deep, and you just cannot justify having everything you own in something that's not real that could just go kerplunk the next day. So the market's been kind of going up lately. I've been selling off a little bit just to kind of kind of get a little bit of that back out, kind of deleverage some. That is to say, don't be so risky. Kind of get your money back out. I've still got a buttload of crypto still, but in my thinking, I'm waiting. I'm seeing high numbers right now. I'm waiting for a few days where the market's just kind of tanking a couple days on end. Then I'll buy back in, no problem. Um, I'll have to say, if this is the way you think, if you're that kind of resourceful, you fancy yourself a capitalist, you like the day trading aspect. Um, there's a lot to think about before you even get into crypto. Even going about the way that I did is very inefficient. By the way, PayPal. I mean, come on, there's some issues with PayPal, for example, which transaction fees are going to kill you. By the way, transaction fees are a
Hmm.
thing. By the way, when you buy or sell crypto, there has to be a little bit of financial incentive for somewhere for I guess somebody's computer to go fill the order um,
Mhm.
on
Or
whatever
even when you move crypto from like an exchange to a wallet,
exchange.
there's a fee attached.
So those might eat you up. I mean, on PayPal, for example, they're on the order of about a 1.5 to 2%, which
Hmm.
if you're looking at things day trading like me, that really kind of squeezes you some. You know, you in order to buy and sell something and then already make money off of it, you have to at least have a 4% bump, to cover both the cost before you even break an even. And at that point, PayPal double screws you because the price they advertise, the average price, if you're buying, they'll charge you the highest price on the spread. If you're selling, they'll give you the lowest price of the spread. Spread means kind of the average within the average price that that coin is going for at the moment. There's a range. There's a range of up to this point and down to this point where this many dollars is being spent for that crypto, and PayPal kind of takes their little bit off the top. Um, and there's a lot of high cost structure. You know, all those fees. I paid hundreds of dollars in fees to them. And on top of that, y'all, there's something called capital gains tax. I'm going to go ahead and let you know what that is. If you buy, like, for example, stocks or something, any sort of investment device that goes up in value and you sell it, that profit you make is called capital gains. You got to give some of that to the government. It's between 20 and 30%. So just go ahead and be like, for all those
I
GameStop
mean, you
traders
don't
who made
have
a
to.
ton of
Okay,
money,
so if you're listening,
if you
you
sell
don't
it.
have to. You don't have to pay the government taxes, but if you don't, you get in trouble.
Okay, yeah.
So,
But
technically speaking, you don't have to pay taxes,
but this is worth
but you
this
can't stay
is
in this country for too long if you don't.
so. But I mentioned it because if you are that sort of person who wants to do the day trade thing, want to go on a short sort of short term, the taxes are a little bit higher. If you keep a security for more than a year, it's like a 20% capital gains rate. If it's for less than a year, it's like 30%. So
Hmm.
I'm looking at a massive tax bill. My taxes are going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say. Um,
Well, I mean, I think that's, you have to think about that when you think about getting into cryptocurrency. Like, how am I going to navigate this when doing my taxes? And I think for a long time, that space, like the government didn't know what to do because the government didn't really know how to classify
mhm.
crypto. But now that it's more mainstream, of course,
Well,
Uncle Sam's gonna get his cut.
you bring up a very important aspect of the whole kind of Bitcoin saga is government regulation. It's kind of the leavener in markets. I mean, we operate, yeah, as a free market, quote unquote. Um, in the U.S., it's not. The more I read into it, but crypto specifically is relatively unregulated. There's very few rules, and pursuant to that, there's some troubles, some potholes, some pitfalls that people are running into right now. Maybe we can even bring up Stellar and XRP right now because that's a kind of a good crossroads intersection between what's a cryptocurrency and what's a security. It's a
Hmm.
little bit technical, but it does go to show there is some inherent danger. Um,
Yeah, I think we should talk about that maybe on another episode because I think if we want to really
yeah,
talk about it,
it's
we're
not for
gonna have to break down
yeah.
a lot of different currencies and talk about like the the structure of Stellar and XRP.
Well, but it's a good cautionary tale that not all of the coins go up. Some of them are going to go
Hmm.
belly up, maybe, and you kind of expect
Well,
that.
I mean, XRP has not.
Not officially, no, but it definitely took a huge hit. If you're,
Yeah, it took
if
a
you had a
hit.
bunch
It's
in it
going
and
back
you
up
were,
though.
yeah. Once they get the lawsuit settled out,
Hmm.
but that's there's some kind of nuts and bolts technicals behind it that
Yeah, yeah. Well, I feel
are
like with
important.
XRP, when you have the owners that have control over the currency, it allow it that there's I think more. skepticism I think the SEC is going to get
Mm,
involved when you have, because with Bitcoin it really isn't owned by anyone, and that's why I want to encourage, LGBTQ black people to invest in this, because you don't have to worry about, historically speaking, there's always been racism in the financial complex. And I think with cryptocurrency, obviously there's gonna, there was just a situation with Blockfolio tweeting out some racist shit, and Blockfolio's a currency exchange. And I fucking lost my train of thought. What was I talking about, Ray?
you're asking me.
I don't even know what I was talking about,
Well,
but
so you were alluding to
racism, racism, racism,
well,
racism.
no, you were alluding to and I guess I was kind of arguing is like the reason Stellar got in trouble, is that a companies normally on an exchange, they have stock normally. That's how they sell off some of their stock to investors to raise money for their company to grow. In this case, what I believe is that Stellar had sold off actual currency to raise capital instead. And the SEC came in and said, "Whoa, that's not a security. You can't be selling that for to raise capital because it was their invention. They obviously had mined a bunch of it, and it had a street value. So basically, like you would where your stock goes up, and for a company you want to make some money, they sold off some and tried to raise some money. And I think that's where the SEC lawsuit originated from. So,
Hmm.
but
Well, if you're
yeah,
if you're getting into cryptocurrency, we would recommend just staying away from XRP. I mean, I would recommend staying away from XRP just for a little while, because
just
obviously, if a
stick to the basics.
place is
You know,
having a pending investigation, it's gonna add volatility to the market.
if you're gonna just kind of dip your toes in, get some Bitcoin, get your Ethereum, maybe some Litecoin, maybe some of those things that might have a chance of really catching on. But if you're seeing all these coins out there for 4 or 5 cents a piece, Dogecoin is a few cents. Don't go nuts. Maybe get like $50 worth and thank me later. If it goes to a dollar piece, you're still
Hmm.
looking at thousands of dollars. You know, um, but so you brought up a really important point um, in terms of access to underserved communities. People who are economically disadvantaged historically, and this is a really good equalizer for them. But what I really want people to understand is that this is not one of those things where we're kind of stealing money from the big guy like you were with the hedge funds a few weeks ago. The big guys are in Bitcoin too. In fact, this is the most probably some important news is that over the past few months, they have been the market movers. They have been why the price is going up so much. Is that the J.P. Morgans, the BlackRocks? There's a fund called Grayscale, which is a big Bitcoin fund. There's you think of the big banks that hold millionaires and billionaires stocks and their IRAs and all that. They typically buy stocks, bonds, gold, the typical, grandfather stuff. But now they're starting to dip their toes into crypto. They're starting to get exposures of, I don't know, 1 or 2% of their portfolio into it. But those are still big numbers. And that really accounts for why we've kind of seen such a big buy in and such a big increase in price lately is that you've got, for example, what's called a monthly inflow. You've got JP Morgan saying every month on behalf of our investors, we're putting in, $300 million into Bitcoin, so that you can count on them doing that. They're going to be soaking up that digital real estate, shall we say. And at some point, you're going to realize that the big boys have a bunch of it too. So just to caution people that this is not just the little man's game. The big guy is in it too. And there's always the potential that you can get pushed around. So,
Yeah, for sure. But there's risk involved with any investments.
mhm,
There's risk involved with the stock market. There's risk involved. Hell, if you just buy a bunch of gold, like there's always going to be the chance that something might happen where either the value of your asset depreciates or somebody just runs up in your shit and steals it. So
mhm,
like just make sure that, like I mentioned earlier, like you're not investing more than you can afford to lose,
yeah,
unless you're Ray, and then just fucking
get a
just
good
throw
ball pile.
everything you got
Yeah. Well,
at crypto.
it's important to note. So the market has gone up recently. I've been kind of pulling out and just kind of seeing, kind of taking my breathing a little bit. Keep a little bit in there just in case it. keeps going up. But just kind of looking at a market, things don't just keep going up. If you look at just any chart, any just mathematically speaking, it's a market. You can't control what everybody does. At some point, there's going to be, the price of Bitcoin is going to get so high that what we call a whale, a holder of a Bitcoin of more than 1,000 of them. That's a lot of Bitcoin, by the way.
Yeah, I call myself a whale every time I look in the mirror.
um, well, people who own those large amounts and make those large transactions, let's say the price got to $100,000 and, guy in his basement is like, all right, it's time to sell off my 500 Bitcoin, that sales influx, that large liquidation can sometimes cause a large drop in price. This is supply and
Mhm.
demand forces. If there's more supply, if there's more Bitcoin trying to get sold than there are buyers for it, that's when the price starts falling. And that's the buy side of the equation is the important part. That's what's kind of keeping
Mhm.
this going is that people are still buying into it. And
Yeah.
as soon as there's a whiff that it's correction time or it's time to get out, like I said a month ago, it hit 40,000. It kissed 40,000, and within about a day, it was like, nope, back to 30.
Yeah. But I mean, big picture.
Big picture.
A year ago, the price for one Bitcoin was $10,000. Today, the price for one Bitcoin is $47,592. And there's been ups and downs, but had you purchased one Bitcoin a year ago, it would have almost increased in price by 5 times. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, you don't need to like. You would be 5 times richer just if you had invested a year ago. So just keep that in mind when you're talking about crypto. Like, yes, it's up and down, but when I look at the data
Mhm.
from really all these currencies over the course of the year, they have all increased in. I'm not gonna say they all increase in price, but all the major ones, the ones that we invest in, have increased in price.
Yeah. Well, so it's important to know they're riding a bull wave. That is to say, the
Hmm.
prices, we're in a bull market, prices are going up, there's buyers. The reason for this is a lot of the big reason why the stock market itself is also at highs. There's a lot of what's called liquidity in the market. There's a lot of just excess money out there that's not doing anything. That's like, hey, I want to buy this stock or that stock. There's a lot of people sitting at home bored, getting stimulus checks. This happened. There was big run on $600 orders a few weeks ago. Not coincidentally, people were just dumping their entire treasury checks into Bitcoin.
Yeah, go and put that stimulus. And y'all, we got this new stimulus coming out. I'm not telling you what to do, but hypothetically, if you were to do something, it would probably be in your best interest for that to be involving cryptocurrency. That's my non-financial advice.
Maybe a nice bottle to sip on to celebrate once your crypto investment has gone up.
Yeah, I mean something. Maybe by the time these people buy crypto, they can buy that bottle in crypto. But I'm just, I just want to encourage you all. Like, I don't know. I can't think of a smarter investment strategy in 2021 at the moment. I mean, the problem with the stock markets are that they're really at an all-time high. Now's not a good time, I think, to get into the stock market.
The problem with the stock market is Reddit.
Oh yeah. And now it's like and the stock market's been manipulated for quite a while now, ever since the federal bailout of 2009. Um the stock market is really under the thumb of the federal government,
Hmm.
and like we established earlier, cryptocurrency is decentralized. So it's really the people's money, and there's no way for any major authority to have more than more than an equitable influence over the market.
Yeah. Well, it's important. I think what I was kind of getting at with the bull market and the stock market going up, those things are being fed by for the finance geeks out there, or you may have heard of the Federal Reserve during the COVID lockdown. To ease the burden on businesses and the economy in general, the Federal Reserve kept interest rates at 0%. What that means is that just means that big banks and big money can be shifted and loaned and very freely transferred and leveraged, which is kind of what's getting into this whole speculative market and economy and the retail trade saga from a couple weeks ago. A lot of that is being fed by quote unquote free money. It's not really free, but really loose economic policy by the Federal Reserve. It's important to remember that those big market forces can matter too.
Hmm. Okay, so yes, we're in a bull run, which means the prices of pretty much all these currencies are increasing,
Mhm.
but they're still affordable. Bitcoin is the most expensive by far. Like, there's nothing even close to Bitcoin. I think Ethereum's the next closest,
Mhm.
and they're at $1,800 for one Ethereum. A lot of them are still hovering around a dollar, honestly. Oh, wait, 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 wait. I'm looking up something WBTC, which is 47,000. I
That's
don't even know
wrapped
what the
Bitcoin.
hell that.
Wrapped Bitcoin works very,
Okay.
very closely with Bitcoin. It's just it has extra encryption measures. I think there's an
Hmm.
extra level of safety to it.
Hmm. Well, there are still tons of coins that are a dollar, and like Ray said, like these aren't the coins that are going to make you rich, but you never know. Um, but
Well,
if a coin's only a dollar, $20, you got 20 coins. Anything can happen.
I tell you, now that we're in this kind of Reddit craze, I mean, really, it's a phenomenon where it's kind of like a lottery. It's like if you grab some stock or some crypto, you got a piece of something. There's a chance that out of the blue, it just spikes overnight because some guy on a Reddit board somewhere was like, "Hey, let's buy this," and it just goes through the roof. And you're sitting over here like, "I have that," you know.
Hmm.
Um, we're kind of getting to that like level of like you just kind of get your hands in on something, you know.
Yeah, just buy a little bit of something, and just make sure you're watching the market. Like, I use this app called, so I mentioned I have my currency in a Coinbase wallet, but I don't want to have to open up my wallet every single time I want to see how my money's doing. So I have a CoinGecko app, which I just put in the cost of, or how much Bitcoin, or how much of a coin I bought, and the price of the coin when I bought it, and it monitors the value of said coin. Or if I chose to sell it, it tells me how much money essentially I would get if I sold it at any given time.
Mhm.
So you also want to have some type of resource that you can use to be able to monitor the market on a daily, on an
Yeah,
hourly
yeah.
basis.
So, folks, I mean, I would say for the newbie hodler investor who just wants to get his piece of it and monitor it over time, PayPal's actually not a bad way to go. It's only because
Hmm.
it's pretty, um, it's user friendly. It's good for noobs and people that need a little bit of hand holding, and it has the graphs right there for you. There are certain
Yeah, and most people
disadvantages.
already have PayPal and Cash App, so
Yeah,
there's
you
not
have.
that learning curve.
Um, but I would say there's some severe limitations to it, especially if you're going to be that day trader guy. I've already already called PayPal a lot, and I'm already kind of having issues with them. They have a yearly buying limit. You can only buy up to $50,000 of Bitcoin of crypto a year. You think like, oh, that's an impossible amount. I'd never do that. Well, trust me, I'm knocking on the door. Not because I own 30,000, $50,000 worth of crypto. It's just because if you're going to be trading back and forth, there's going to be a lot of buying, a lot of selling, a lot of buying again. Trust me, after a few cycles, like I'm already knocked at
Hmm.
the door. Like I'm 15 or $20,000 away. Um, so there are definite disadvantages, like I said, for a day trader. Don't use PayPal, but
And
that's good.
PayPal, you also can't move the coin
You can't move it.
to another currency or to a wallet.
You can't buy anything with it. You can't transfer.
Hmm.
I hear that PayPal has some services that you could use. It's PayPal. It's crypto within the system. I've yet to discover that yet, and they're pretty new to it. I mean, they're I'm sure going to start carrying different cryptos in the future. Their tools are going to change. Hopefully, they change my buying limit, or else I'm going elsewhere. Um, but if you're new to it and you just want a little piece of it, that's a way to go. I know that
Yeah.
Robinhood was offering. I know Venmo, although Venmo's owned by PayPal. They're very similar. You can buy incremental amounts.
Mhm.
Um,
And Cash App actually does let you move coin to a different wallet. So if you're looking for something, I've heard a lot of good things about Cash App actually. So if I were to recommend like a beginner level um, app or resource that can get you, you know, your feet wet with crypto, I would recommend Cash App.
And really, whichever way people decide to go, it looks like the way is up with all this stuff. So just kind of get a little piece of it somewhere. Um,
Mhm.
just to kind of give a little interject a little bit of perspective as to where we are. I know it looks expensive. Bitcoin's at knocking on the door of 50,000. There are projections from for example, J.P. Morgan. Long term, they're saying next year beyond it could hit 146,000. That number was thrown out there.
Mhm.
A source, Guggenheim, had even higher valuation at 600,000 long term. But again, all those things are dictated by the supply, continued buying appetite, um, the promise of long-term adoption of the currency. There's a lot of balls in the air still, and for example, as the day trader, I hope for and I kind of expect that the market will drop back down. Bitcoin will probably hit 40,000 again before it goes back up to 60. Um, it's just mathematically how these things work. You look at a chart, it's going to go up, it's going to hit a high, it's going to come back down. You don't have any friends in the market and you can't control what they do. So somewhere, somebody's going to sell out and say, hey, it's time for me to cash in and make some money. And he's going to sell. So you can't force everybody to huddle forever until it becomes worth $1 million.
Mhm.
Remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're super right. But me just looking at my portfolio at the moment, let me put it like this. Um, month ago, maybe, is when I first started putting money into crypto, and I put in $150, and after fees and transactions, it was maybe like 148. And currently, and I would say 4 weeks, I'm now at 190. Like my portfolio is now worth $190. So in the process of a couple weeks, I've made a gain of $42.
About a 35%, or probably even a little bit higher, than maybe a 40% margin there, which is
Yeah,
great.
which is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, like and generally when you're investing, you see very small gains over a long period of time. But to see like $10 every week, you're pretty much
Oh,
making that's impressive.
trust me. I mean, as deep in as I was over the past 2 months, like made a significant amount of money. But
Hmm.
at that point, I got to say I can't justify having all that in there. I'm gonna go ahead and sell it off a little bit while it's high.
Hmm.
And obviously, as soon as I sell, the price is going to keep going up. It's going to kick you like that when you're down. But little advice to everybody: don't trade off of FOMO. You know, purely just because you're fearing missing out. There's always going to be money to be made one day. You can always make money off of it. Even when it goes to really high prices, it's going to come back down. It's going to go back up. I mean, there's always going to be a way to get in on it. Um, and don't trade on emotion. If you're going to be your day trader, if you're going to have a trading strategy, just know what your stops are. Be disciplined. I wasn't disciplined. I
Hmm.
was like, oh crap, I gotta buy now. Oh no, I gotta sell it. I was buying and selling within an hour because I thought the market was going up, but really it wasn't. I just it was just a temporary thing. Be disciplined. Stick to your rules. I've got a whole set of rules. I like ways to just think about it. For example, you can't play the market perfectly. You can't be super lucky. You just want a piece of it. So everybody just try to get a piece of the rocket ship as it's going up. You may not make $1 billion, but if you made some free money, hey, I ain't mad at that.
Yeah, totally. It's an emerging market, and there's a lot of different opportunities for taking advantage financially of all these opportunities.
Mhm.
So I think it's important. And, on another episode, we got to talk about mining and the actual process
Mhm.
for mining, because if we're going to talk about access to these currencies, we also need to talk about how you can really get access, and that's if you become a miner.
Yeah,
But that's a whole nother
yeah.
conversation.
It's important to know
And
that for Bitcoin, it's pretty impractical to mine Bitcoin, but all the other
mhm,
coins, maybe. I mean, there's programs out there you can put on your computer and let it sit there and
mhm,
crank. But
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I hope this was informative. We've now hit like an hour, so I think this is as much content as anybody is like willing to sit through
Yep.
at one point in time. But we should definitely do another one of these and like talk about I think more of the specifics behind XRP and the SEC and the different ways
Yeah.
that the different purposes of crypto outside of currencies, and then talk about like some of the spectacular failures because there have, we mentioned Dogecoin, and Dogecoin hasn't failed spectacularly, but there have been. I think there was a Kanye coin, which is like named after Kanye West, which kind of just was a big flop. And there's been a lot of almost kind of like scammy coins,
Yeah.
and I think it's important to
Yeah.
know like that is part of this experience.
I think Steven
But
Seagal
for now,
was
we
sort
just.
of a was sort of like a scam coin.
Oh gosh, is he still alive? Lord, that ponytail is hanging on for dear
So
life.
just know what you're
Um,
buying, people. Know what
well,
you're
we hope
buying.
you all, yes, know what you buying, and like, in addition to the tips that Ray had, like, don't invest more than you can afford to lose, and make sure you do your research, because you will find out like there's a lot of pitfalls and there's a lot of like rabbit holes,
Yep.
and we don't want you guys to get caught up in all that bullshit.
Yeah.
But we do want you guys to get invested and like start to look at this as an alternative to traditional forms of wealth accumulation.
Yeah. And
Um,
as we all learn together, I mean, if we inspire anybody to kind of get into it and learn it, I mean, this is an evolving process for us. We could check in
mhm,
later and see how our thoughts have evolved on it, where the market's sitting, who
mhm,
else, any of the listeners who may have decided to at least look into it.
mhm.
That'll be a good follow up. So I'm excited to see where things go.
Yeah, and we'll keep everybody updated. I think it's nice that we're kind of in the beginning phases because if people join us, then they can kind of join the journey, and it's not like they're just walking in the deep end.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but
If you don't know what you're doing, you can get your lunch taken quickly. So
yes. Yes. But once again, thank you, Ray, for joining me.
my pleasure.
I hope I hope this is your first podcast.
It is. I appreciate it. The
Okay.
opportunity.
Well, we have deflowered Ray, and I hope you guys learned something. If not, then I mean, the next episode we'll probably be talking about something completely different. So just tune in. I'm sure there's some gem of wisdom that you can use.
Yeah.
Ray, you continue to hustle out, and I don't know if you've made any trades today, but I hope they were profitable.
Oh yeah, I've been selling.
Okay, okay. Well, we'll see you guys later, and enjoy the rest of your night.
All right. Thank you all.